early signs of success in the stepped-up effort against crime. As Oyston's festival climaxes, the organizers already looking forward to next year. And Barbados pick up gold at all three Caribbean Championships.
Broadcasting from our studios in the Pine St. Michael, this is CBC News Night, starting now.
A very good April 22nd, Easter Monday edition of CBC News Night. I'm Ryan Broom. Local authorities are starting to see some success in their crime-fighting efforts, and Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs Dale Marshall is attributing it to the additional resources being made available to the police, which has allowed them to step up their patrols. He says they're finally getting a handle on the crime situation that has been plaguing the country since the start of the year.
This has already begun to ramp up stop and searches. We've had some success over the last few days with the seizure. Not a lot of weapons, but still there was an incident in St. Andrew, and I think everyone knows about that by now. So we've been able to net a few weapons that way. So the police are achieving some success. We're getting a good rate of crime solved. And the increased patrols are working as well. The gun unit is out there very active.
And the Attorney General made the comments at what is now a staple on the Easter weekend calendar of events in Barbados. It's the Paris Hill Kite Flying event, which after 2 decades is still attracting big kites and big crowds. Our Lisa Lord reports.
It's been 2 decades since big kites have been taking to the skies in St. Joseph. Nilo Maskell has been one of the main men behind the event over the years. He says corporate Barbados was especially good to them this year, and their biggest challenge besides a lack of wind was manpower.
Because most of the guys, like working, and we do most of the work late on evenings or with the bank holidays.
Now, for the last 2 years, the event has been opened to everyone to bring their kites. Clyde Moore from St. George decided to show those in attendance what that parish had to offer.
Eating further, it's all handcrafted, hand-painted, whatever, right? And the theme today is survival.
How difficult was it to make?
No, really not difficult, because by doing it previously, it's not really a problem. It just took us a little 2.5 days.
How many people were there?
3. Yeah. Myself, Blues, and Crab.
This year's event was called Altitude. MP for St. Joseph and Attorney General Dale Marshall says he continues to be impressed by the event.
Every year it seems to get bigger and better with more and more interest. It looks as though we're going to have some nice wins, so I'm hopeful that we'll have some success in these skies this year. It's been a very difficult year, I think, for all Barbadians, and the opportunity to come out and renew our friendships and build community spirit again is something that I value, and it's especially important at a time when we've had to contend with layoffs all over Barbados.
Unfortunately, by the time our cameras left, the big kites had not yet taken to the skies. When we checked back, the organizers said there just wasn't enough wind to raise any of the giants. Lisa Lord, CBC News.
It's really unfortunate. Thanks, Lisa. And as the Oystons Festival goes into its final hours tonight, chairperson of the festival, Tony Thorne, says she's generally pleased with how the event has gone over the past 4 days. She made the comment during an interview with CBC News.
For me and the team, it has gone quite well. Right now, as I speak to you, we have a team out of our wider team just walking around getting feedback because it's the final day. So store owners would have been able to gather certain thoughts in their minds, and they're roaming just to get feedback and note that feedback so we can come back bigger and better next year. Personally, it has been a good experience meeting all these new people, understanding a lot of the processes that go into making something like this possible. And I'm just looking forward to taking all the feedback and going back to our mood board and looking at ways in which we could improve upon what we did in 2019 and incorporate all of the plans that we have for the next 5 to 10 years.
Now, Ms. Lawrence says while the full review process is still to take place, she and her team members have agreed that there's a need for a greater reflection of indigenous stalls in the festival.
For sure, a definite thing that we would like is that the proportion between plastic toys and plastic things and local goods. My personal vision for it is that it will be a festival which caters to the fisher folk. It's for the fisher folk in terms of keeping those traditional activities in life, continue to be something that predominantly has free events and also has a high percentage of stall owners who are offering indigenous products. I think that's very important.
Well, the deterioration of Barbados' coral reefs is placing the island's coastline in jeopardy. President of the Coral Reef Restoration Alliance, or Coral, Susan Mahon, says 30 years ago, sea stars, sand dollars, sea urchins, and brightly colored coral were a common sight. Ms. Mahon says while that's still the case in Carlisle Bay, the Folkestone Marine Reserve, and a few other places, there are many spots where the country's biological diversity has been significantly reduced.
The staghorn corals and the elkhorn corals that used to be quite prevalent along the west and the south coasts have been considerably reduced in number. Even so, it's very difficult to find even one staghorn coral or one elkhorn coral in a wide area of the reef. And those branching corals are the ones that protect our shoreline from erosion, from the heavy waves and so on.
Now, Ms. Mahon was speaking to CBC News as Barbados joins the rest of the world in observing Earth Day 2019. She says there are many causes for the deterioration of the reefs, including bad fishing practices, but she adds human activities inland are also partly to blame.
We have to look at what we call the ridge to reef approach, which includes what is happening in the highlands. So, for example, we might have something going on in the highlands of St. Thomas, for example, which is right in the middle of the island, and the water which is carried down from the middle to the sea is somehow perhaps contaminated with something, perhaps a chemical or maybe sewage or some other kind of pollutant, which then makes its way down to the sea. And sometimes it's not very visible what's happening.
To news from the region now, in St. Lucia, members of the Wilton's Yard community have rallied in support of several families in the neighborhood whose homes were destroyed by a recent fire.
Members of the Wilton's Yard community have come together to assist those impacted by the fire. Community leader Peter Reynolds says they have begun the cleanup and are appealing for help to get those affected by the fire rebuild their lives.
The community got together and we cleaned up. That's the last truckload there. That makes number 8. So what we're asking for the public is basically assistance in the form of bare necessities, as far as food and maybe clothing and toiletries. The people here, the people who are displaced are very distraught because these people were basically implanted here. These people have been here for many years, and most of them are elderly, over 50, over 60, even over 70 years old. So we're basically appealing to the public to assist us in any way that is possible. That way we can, with help from the outside and help from ourselves as a community, we may be able to get everybody back with proper housing sooner rather than later.